Welcome to the School of Martial Arts Meditation Talk every Thursday night at 8 o'clock, free and open to the public. Please come. And I'm Miss Macy, and I'm one of the staff members here, and I get to teach this class because Sifu is out with his baby. So he's getting some well-earned, well, I don't know if he's well-earned, but well-deserved paternity leave. So it's really awesome. So tonight's topic is question and answer, which is always a really fun evening. I am going to say that my answers are going to be different from Sifu's, and they're neither right nor wrong, but they are my answers for this evening. And if you ask me again in 10 years' time, or even if you ask me to do them tomorrow, I might give you a different answer. But tonight's answer will be tonight's answer. So you can ask me any questions that you have about meditation, about your practice. So yeah, when you're ready, when somebody has a question, I'd love to hear it. Yeah. Go ahead, AJ.
So any tips, even just as a foundation on how to master the art of meditation?
Any tips on mastering the art of meditation? Or the basic foundations to mastering the art. Yeah, I was going to say, because that's a really huge topic. So there's a few things that come to mind there. Yes, one of the things that you want to do to start off with is make sure that you're going to be able to sit for a period of time without your feet going to sleep, without some body part really screaming at you. Now, if you sit for a longer period of time, body parts are going to scream at you. It doesn't matter what you do. But for a short meditation when you're getting started, if you're just doing like 5, 10, 15 minutes, you should be able to sit without pain, unless you have an injury or something like that. So find a position where you're going to be able to sit comfortably for that length of time that you've chosen to sit for. And what you really want to do is have your spine straight so that you can let the energy flow in your body, so that the breath can flow easily in and out of your body. Ideally, you sit so that your knees are slightly below your hips, because that will help not let anything go to sleep. Often we sit here either kneeling in Seiza. It can be helpful to have a meditation bench or the Zafus, something like that, or you can sit on a chair, but you want to sit on like a kitchen chair where it's going to be flat and you're not like leaning, you're not like reclined in a comfy chair. You have your spine straight so that it's not supported too much by the chair. And then after that, you want to do what Ms. Donahue, who is kind of the equivalent staff member in Sifu Brown's school, she calls it locking it down. So you sit and then you kind of lock it down, like you're in meditation. So you're not going to respond to pretend flies landing on your face. You're not going to respond to little itches that happen on your arm. You're not going to respond to, oh, there's a scratch here, or, oh, I just need to go like this. Oh, none of that. You just lock it down and you're in meditation. And that mindset allows you to get rid of all of those little distractions that happen when you first start to sit. Because your mind doesn't want you to sit. Your monkey mind just wants you to be anywhere else apart from sitting in meditation. It's your ego, right? Your ego wants you to do something else, because by stilling the mind, you're ignoring the ego. The ego hates being ignored. It really wants to run the show. So you just give up the ego. Ego doesn't want you to. So you just sit and you lock it down and be very firm with that decision, like you're going to lock it down, and then just sit. And you do your best to sit still. And you just focus on your breath. And of course, you're going to think. So as soon as you recognize that you're thinking, then you want to go back to your breath. And when you come back to your breath, you're probably going to have the thought, oh, I was thinking again. And then you go, oh, that's another thought. No judgment. So you really want to try not to have any judgment about your thoughts, just recognize them, and then go, oh, that's right, I'm thinking about my breath. Great. And you just breathe. So it's constantly going back to that. When you first start meditation, you probably won't get through half a breath without having a thought. That's reality. That's what our minds do. Our brains are designed to think, especially in this world where there's so many distractions and so many inputs into our brain. Your brain's used to having all of these things like this fast, and when you let go of that and just breathe and just be focused on your breath, for even one breath is usually longer than you would be distracted out in the social media world or out in LA with all the billboards and all that sort of stuff that you've got going on. So meditation is super simple. And it's extremely difficult. So have compassion with yourself, have patience with yourself, and sit. The more you sit, the more you practice, the easier it becomes. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. That's a great question. So the question is, do you want to have a breathing practice during your meditation, or do you do it before? Yeah, I have a breathing practice that I do before my meditation, strictly because when the way that we meditate, we're watching our breath. We're not controlling our breath. Whereas a breathing practice is controlling your breath, right? So controlling your breath is really great to practice, good breathing techniques and all of those things and the different types of things, energy flows and things like that you can manage with your breath. But then when you actually want to meditate, you just want to be an observer. So you're just watching. So I recommend before. That was a really short answer to that. See if you would have made that 5 minutes long. I'm trying to see if Tanya has a question, but I can't tell whether she's got her hand raised or not. I don't know how to do that. I have to go over and have a look because Tanya has raised her hand. 1 second, I'm going to change my view here so I can see her. There we go. What's your question, Tanya?
This is a very related question, I think. But when something happens quite
Hold
suddenly...
on 1 second, I'm going to turn your volume up because I can't hear you very easily. I'm turning my volume up. There we go, I'm good.
Mm-hmm. And this is a related question. Mm-hmm. I was just wondering, when something happens very suddenly and you have a knee-jerk reaction to it, what's the first thing that you would suggest doing to help change your reaction to something? For example, as I sat down for this meditation class and I leaned in to turn on my video screen, I turned over the cup of coffee that I had just made and it poured everywhere all over the floor. So it was not exactly the most relaxing thing just before meditation. What would you suggest to do immediately? What would be your first response to something like that? How would you lock that down? What would you do?
So Tanya's question, in case, and I do need to repeat that, I think. Tanya's question is, what happens when something unexpected happens and you're about to do your meditation, or in life in general, probably, right? What do you do? How do you control your immediate response in such a way that it's going to be productive and a resourceful response? I'm paraphrasing. That wasn't exactly what Tanya said, but I'm paraphrasing. So I know Sifu's immediate answer is going to be to breathe, right? It's to take an inhale and to maybe hold it for a second and then take a longer exhale Anytime you take the inhale and then it takes longer for you to do the exhale, you're actually connecting to your vagus nerve, which allows you then to not override, but bypass the limbic system, which is the reptilian part of your brain, and it goes straight up to your prefrontal cortex. So you get to think about it for a second. And when you get to think about something, that's where the more rational, the more measured response can come in. So when you get good at doing that, you can go pretty much straight to a measured response anytime. Like Viktor Frankl says, the only thing that human beings can't take away from me is my response, or how I respond to a certain situation, right? So when you are in that situation, you just filled your coffee, you were about to sit down and meditate, the first thing is like all of the stories, the Zen stories about, oh, that's what happened. I don't know if you remember, Tanya, the story of the farmer who had a son who came home from out of town, right? And he came home and all the villagers were like, oh, that's amazing, your son's come home, you're so lucky to have him back again, he's going to be able to work for you and all the rest of it, it's going to be fantastic. And the farmer said, yep, kind of pretty non-committal about it, yep, he's home, that's great, yep, And then the next day, the son was out breaking in a stallion and fell off and broke his leg. And then all the villagers were like, oh my gosh, it's a terror, it's a catastrophe, it's awful, it's just the most terrible thing that's ever happened. Oh, I don't, he just came home and now he's got a broken leg, now you have to feed him and he's not doing any work for you. And the farmer was like, yep, it's life, it's, it's what happens. But then the next week, the army comes through and they're recruiting all of the young people from around the surrounding areas to go and fight in a war with them. But his son can't go because he's got a broken leg. And all of the villagers go, it's amazing, fantastic, your son is saved, he's going to live to have a long life because he wasn't able to go. So, and the farmer's like, yep, I guess so. So just on one hand, knowing that life is going to go like this, up and down all the time, and life happens, and your response can be whatever your response is. So you can choose with your response to go up and down with life if you want to, but oh boy, that sounds really exhausting to me. It doesn't sound like a very, very fun time. So you want to your response can be like, a little bit more like this, so it's not so extreme one way or the other. So maybe you spill your coffee right before meditation. You go, that's something to clean up. Woohoo! Great, awesome. I get to clean something up now. And turn it around a little bit so that it's not a negative, but it's like I get to do something here. I get to. And this time it was clean up coffee. That's exciting, Tony. You got to clean up coffee before meditation. You don't get to do that every single time before meditation. So it's great. It's you're giving yourself a new experience. That's so nice. So there's always a way to spin something where it's a positive. There's always a way to draw from life lessons that are going to feed you, that are going to give you strength, that are going to allow you to step forward into life with more aplomb, with more measuredness, with more grace and with more ease. So finding those things that you can draw into yourself in any unexpected situation is a fun exercise, if nothing else. Yeah. Thank you, Tanya. Sam.
What are good ways to silence the ego during meditation or identifying those ways? keys outside of the breath that help you kind of hone in on meditation?
So Sam's asking about how you recognize the ego in your meditation and how you deal with your ego in the meditation too, right? Yeah. Well, the first step is recognizing your ego, and pretty much any thought that you're going to have while you're meditating is something to do with the ego, pretty much. I mean, every now and again, I get a thought that's like, oh, I've got to put the washing on, but that's still a distraction. It's like, you know, there's something coming in, like your ego's going, hey, pay attention to me over here. And, you know, something really practical, but it's still my ego going, hey, don't just sit here. You should be doing something, you know, and that's what my ego says. Go do something. Don't just sit here. So anything that's, you know, anything that smacks of that is something that is ego for me. It's like, you know, and it can be anything. And I can be thinking about what somebody said earlier in the day, or, you know, what somebody said yesterday, or what the things I've got coming up later on in the day. None of that's meditating. I wish, but it's not. And the trick is just recognizing it. And again, not being mad at the ego for being there, because the ego is part of you, but just acknowledging the ego and saying thanks, and go say, I'm just paying attention to my breath right now. You just, yeah, thanks for sharing, and, you know, you can go and sit off in a corner or something like that. You know, it's like you can imagine a little person that's your ego. Maybe you'll ask it to go to sleep for a while. I don't know. There's all sorts of different mind tricks that you can play. But mostly it's just going to be coming back to the breath. And, you know, with any meditation, it's asking your brain to focus and to not wander, right? So there's lots of different types of meditation, and our meditation is just focusing on the breath. And that's only one way to silence your ego. But it's a pretty effective way of silencing your ego if you can be really disciplined with your mind. If you want enough to be with the breath. And that wanting enough is it's also you have to do that without involving the ego, right? So it's that striving without striving that we often talk about. Like you have to want to do it, but not actually like, I have to do this. That's not it. But it's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to sit and breathe, and I'm going to watch my breath. And then you just watch your breath. So it's going back to the simplicity of it in a way as well. I hope that helps.
Because I guess I find my response to when I recognize the ego is to move, is to make it. Because I guess my head is convincing myself that I'm doing something other than just sitting. But like you mentioned, it helps that we're bringing back to the simplicity. The breath is enough. You sitting here is enough. Validation. It's worth it. And I guess it's also finding that I have to convince myself that this is helping. Because I only look for doing something else because it's not helping or progressing as much forward.
Yeah.
I guess that's where I get caught up.
It's really interesting trying to measure for yourself the effectiveness of meditation. It's really, really difficult. So for years, I've worked on trying to go to bed earlier and getting good sleep. Years. Really long time. And at the beginning of this year, I started actually going to bed at the same time. So I was going to bed at 10 o'clock every night, or between 10 and 10:15, a little bit of wiggle room there, but every night. And I discovered that if I meditated for 15 minutes, sometime during the day, didn't matter when, but if I meditated for 15 minutes, then I got really good deep sleep at the beginning of my sleep, and then my sleep was much more restful. So I kind of couldn't really tell that without having actually every night, yes, I went to bed, on time. Yes, I did my meditation. Oh, this day I skipped my meditation. Oh, I didn't get good night's sleep. So it took being really kind of rigorous with that to be able for me to be able to really pinpoint, or maybe I did 15 minutes or 5 minutes or something. It wasn't it wasn't at least 15 minutes, but for me, at least 15 minutes any time during the day. And I did play with it, beginning of the day, end of the day, that didn't matter. But sitting and being still and just watching my breath for 15 minutes has me sleep better. So, for me, it's I meditate anyway, but it's this is a really good reason to meditate. That was a measurable effect for me that I did not necessarily expect. But we know, all the research that gets done in hospitals and lots of different places, and for thousands of years too, right? People have done this for themselves. That meditation has a benefit for you. It helps with your blood pressure. It helps with all of those, physiological things that go wrong when we get too stressed. So allowing ourselves to sit and be in stillness helps our body to re-regulate itself back into healthy blood pressure, back into healthy levels of cortisone and all of that sort of stuff. So even though you might not be physically doing anything or even mentally doing anything, your body is doing the things it needs to do to get back into a state of health, which is really hard to measure, but it's happening because they've done all the studies in the hospitals and done all of those measurements and stuff. So, yeah. Hard to know. All right. With that, we're going to take a moment. Well, we're going to take about 15 minutes to go ahead and sit and meditate and practice being the observer of the breath, and practice allowing ourselves to do nothing so that we can be more effective in our lives. Yeah. As you may. All right. So you might want to sit, you probably want to sit in Seiza on the Zafus. You might not want to sit just on your feet unless you know that you can do that for the whole time. Close eyes, spine straight, hands resting on your thighs or in the bend of your hips. Let go of any worries, concerns, or cares. Allow your eyes to be upturned. As though you're looking at your third eye. Notice any thoughts they come in. And do your best to return to observing the breath. We'll do a few breaths together. Starting with all the breath out. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. Breathe in. Hold. Exhale. Breathe in. Hold. Exhale. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Last one, breathe in. Hold. Exhale and end with a double exhale. Just allow your breath to come in naturally and allow it to exit naturally. Keep coming back to the breath, observing.